climbing has always lived on the edges of mainstream sport, and even when it is recognized, it's typically viewed as more of a lifestyle activity than a competitive one. But this is finally starting to change, and a lot of that is thanks to Adam Ondra. If history tells us anything, is that it only takes one athlete to change the way the world looks at a sport. So far, Adam seems to be the poster boy that climbing has been waiting for. But why? What is it that makes him more intriguing, more athletic, and more marketable than his competitors? To answer that question, we need to go back to the beginning. Most people don't even know that competitive climbing is a thing. Unlike basketball or football, kids aren't staying after school to climb, and people aren't packing stadiums to watch people boulder. To get an early start on climbing, you had to be born into it. Luckily, that's just what happened with Adam. He was born in 1993 in Brno, Czech Republic, to parents for whom climbing was essentially a way of life. He claims that the lessons began almost as soon as he could walk, and that his parents instilled a deep passion in him that has lasted his entire life. But nurture wasn't all there was to it. Adam was a prodigy when it came to climbing. At the age of 6, on a family trip to Rovini, he climbed a bolted route graded 6A. At age 8, he on-sighted a 7B+, followed by a 7C+, and an 8A the following year. At a time when most kids were still figuring out the playground monkey bars, he was tackling pro-level grades with nothing more than a quick read. Then at 13, he red-pointed his first 9A, a route called Martin Karpan in Slovenia's Mischapech. Unsurprisingly, he soon became a phenomenon. He was appearing in climbing magazines across Europe by the time he hit double digits, which gave him an early taste of fame he'd soon encounter. To those watching, Ondra seemed to have the perfect mix of composure and creativity. More importantly, he made climbs that had broken people twice his age look easy. By his teenage years, Ondra had officially entered the competitive circuit. He was already boasting a sizable list of accomplishments, but now he had to repeat it all while the entire climbing world was watching, and he didn't disappoint. In 2007 and 2008, he won the IFSC World Youth Championship in the Youth B category, which gave him the opportunity to compete in both Ecuador and Sydney. 2 years later, when he was still just 16, he was competing against the best of the best in the Lead World Cup. He was only expected to hold his own, but instead, he won outright, knocking down legends like Pagzi Usobiaga and Sachiyama. In 2010, he went even further, winning the Bouldering World Cup. This made him the first athlete in history to win the overall cup in both lead and bouldering. He was, to put it simply, an undeniable talent, and he was still just a teenager. But what really mattered was the visibility. All of these factors proved enough to push Adam Ondra out of the climbing silo and into the wider world of international sports. He made the news in multiple countries. He was interviewed on major networks. Suddenly, people who never even considered climbing a sport were paying attention, and they liked what they saw. Most climbers choose a lane. You are either a boulderer, a lead climber, or a speed specialist. But Ondra took a different approach. He mastered all three. It was this competitive versatility that made him one of the best adaptable climbers on the circuit. Beyond that, it made him exciting to watch. Don't get me wrong, there were critics, but they came off more like doubters. They said Adam was too skinny or that he lacked raw power. They said his fingers weren't the strongest on pockets and his lack of muscle was eventually going to hurt him as he kept competing. But it soon became clear that Ondra was compensated with something harder to define. Even naysayers couldn't deny his unique ability to keep pushing through brutal sequences without falling apart. Paired with his contortion-like flexibility and a gift for reading routes, he became almost supernatural. He had the endurance to fight fatigue when leading, the creativity to solve challenging bouldering routes, and the speed to shut down people who were lighter, stronger, and more experienced. Ondra wasn't built to fit a mold, he was built to break it. Adam Ondra is often called the Mozart of climbing, and for good reason. His style combines natural gifts with obsessive training in a way few athletes in any sport can match. So what makes him so good? Why am I glazing him so much? The first factor is his unique combination of power and endurance. In the 2019 lead finals in Kranz, most of the field flamed out on a steep section of sloped holds. But Ondra was able to find micro rests others missed, allowing him to shake out just enough energy to surge through some ultra challenging moves. In fact, even champions agree that his ability to sustain challenging sequences is pretty much unmatched. Next, you have flexibility. At just over 6 feet, Ondra isn't a giant by any means, but he not only has incredible reach, he can also contort his body in ways others simply can't. A lot of this has to do with his insane hip mobility. For instance, he often climbs in split-leg positions, dropping his hips low and sticking his feet absurdly high. This allows him to minimize energy expenditure even when he's in what appears to be an impossible position. The third factor? His ability to read routes. Where many climbers fumble, testing holds, adjusting and wasting energy, Ondra often commits immediately. He seems to have an almost superhuman ability to visualize the sequence before even leaving the ground. This saves strength and creates a flow that makes his climbing look effortless. Even when the moves are at an absolute limit of human ability, other critical factors include Adam's legendary finger strength and his immense mental resolve. He's a trim 154 pounds, but his fingers don't just support his weight, they also have the pain tolerance to crimp razor-sharp edges without fail. The way he moves, you'd swear he's found a way to block off his pain receptors entirely. For most climbers, a single groundbreaking ascent is enough to define a career. For Ondra, climbs like that are an almost weekly occurrence. Again, this started back when he was just 13, when he on-sighted the 9A route at Czech. Most climbers spent months, even years working these lines, but Ondra walked up, tied in, and did it first try. It was that ascent that first indicated how much he was going to shake the climbing community, because it proved that what everyone thought was a ceiling might not be the top at all. In 2012, he put up change in Norway, the world's first proposed 9B+. At the time, even 9B was considered cutting edge. Then just 1 year later, he repeated La Doradura in Spain, a Chris Sharma project that had been hyped as the world's hardest. The two men had been racing for years to climb harder, each pushing the other forward, but when Ondra clipped the chains, it symbolized a passing of the torch from one generation to the next. Then came silence. In 2017, deep inside Norway's Flatanger cave, Ondra established the first ever 9C, the most challenging climb on earth. The route took him years of effort, combining finger-ripping crimps, monstrous knee bars, and body positions so contorted they were painful just to watch. Even years later, many consider this climb to be Adam's apex, and he more than earned the applause. His approach was so obsessive that he admitted to building a replica of the crux section at home, so that he could practice the positions until his body literally adapted to them. No one else had even attempted to grade something at 9C before. And suddenly, there it was, a new horizon for the sport. Of course, Ondra's achievements aren't limited to red points. He has also flashed 9A+, on-sighted countless 8C+, 9A routes, and climbed boulders up to V17. These numbers represent the types of benchmarks that force the rest of the community to recalibrate what's possible. Because when Ondra succeeds, it doesn't just add a trophy to his cabinet, it rewrites the global map of climbing difficulty. Although Adam Ondra's name is usually tied to sport climbing, his ventures into trad represent some of the boldest statements of his career. To most people, this is just climbing at its most raw, because it's not just about skill and strength, but judgment, risk, and mental toughness. It's a little surprising that Adam embraced trad climbing at all. He didn't grow up in trad hotspots like the UK or Utah. That made coming across practice spots that much harder. Still, when he stepped into the massive arena that is a great outdoors, he did so at the highest level. When he was still 16, he repeated the infamous 5.14B Cobra Crack in Squamish, Canada, which was considered one of the hardest trad climbs in the world at the time. The route is a razor-thin fissure that demands excruciating finger locks, but the young Czech flew in, tried it, and shocked the world. In the ensuing years, the hits just kept coming for Ondra. In 2014, he flashed Elder Statesman in Germany, a 5.14C. In 2016, he joined a Czech team on Eternal Flame, a legendary alpine big wall on Triangle Tower in Pakistan, where he on-sighted most of the pitches, despite bad weather at an altitude of 6,500 meters. It was proof that he could bring his skills into the harshest environments on Earth, and he just kept doing it. To many climbers, Adam Ondra is basically Superman. If that's true, the 2020 Tokyo Olympics revealed his kryptonite. When climbing was officially announced for that year, fans immediately assumed Ondra would dominate. By then, he had already claimed silence and rewritten dozens of records. But there was a problem, namely the Olympic format. The way it was set up, athletes had to compete across speed, bouldering, and lead. With the rankings multiplied to find a winner, though he had trained for maximum versatility, speed climbing soon proved to be Adam's weak link. Even after he buckled down and started cutting his times drastically, his low speed score prevented him from ruling the finals. In the end, he finished 6th overall, which is perfectly respectable, but to those who had built him up as unstoppable, it looked like a crack in the armor. Still, his presence was symbolic. he gave the games legitimacy, bringing passion and visibility to climbing on its biggest stage yet. Even without a medal, he became the face of the sport's Olympic breakthrough. And he also helped foster change. As it turns out, he wasn't the only one to complain about the format, so in Paris 2024, speed climbing was separated from lead and bouldering, giving the sport a chance to further adapt to its new international stage. For his part, Adam claims that balancing competition and outdoor climbing has also been difficult. Switching back and forth means he sometimes sacrifices performance in one arena to succeed in the other. Add to the burden of being climbing's unofficial ambassador, and you begin to see the human side. Ondra is not just a machine. He struggles with fear, doubt, and burnout like anyone else. When he's away from the wall, he's an entirely different person. In fact, friends describe him as quiet, polite, and even shy. His fellow climbers say the same, claiming that they've seen the analytical, thoughtful version of Ondra many times in gyms around the world, where he's more likely to break down his moves like a chess player than attack the wall like a madman. When asked what he does when he's not training, he says he mostly enjoys spending time with his wife, fellow climber Eva Veimolova, and their young child. That may be true, but the sport's newest mascot isn't completely immune to fame. Over the years, he's become a prolific content creator. On his personal YouTube channel, he offers interesting tidbits like training diaries, behind-the-scenes footage, and insights into his projects. Many agree that this makes him even more relatable to his fans, because they get to see his struggles as well as his triumphs. Adam Ondra isn't just a climber, he's a phenomenon who has redefined both what the sport is and what it can be. Physically, he has pushed climbing to new, previously imagined grades. Technically, he's pioneered new movements and styles. Culturally, he's helped bring climbing to the mainstream, and he's only in his early 30s. From a child prodigy on the walls of Brno to the man who climbed the world's first 9C, Adam Ondra has lived the full arc of an underdog turned icon in just over 2 decades. Along the way, he's faced doubt, injury, and pressure, but in each case, he's found ways to rise higher. And as long as he keeps climbing, we'll keep watching.